What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Heineken Brewery, and they're headquartered in the Netherlands, and this is their Newcastle Brown Ale. So this is an English brown ale that comes in at 4.7% alcohol by volume, 18 IBUs at the time of review. I believe this bottle is approximately 8.5 months old, but it also has a best by date of November of 2025. So according to the brewery, we should be more than good to go. So if you want to get right into the review, fast forward probably about 3 or 4 minutes and you'll get right into it. But we got a little bit of story time with my history, which isn't substantial with this beer, but the history of the beer itself, especially over the past 15 or 20 years. So I don't have a big history with this beer. I had it for the first time in like late 2009, early 2010. Had it a couple more times. Last time I had this one was like 2011, maybe 2012. So it's been at least 13 years, maybe closer to 15 years since I've had this one before. Now, the first time I had it, it was already owned by Heineken. I believe they bought the brand back in 2008, I think it was. And I think they kept things pretty similar for the most part. You guys can tell me and correct me if I'm wrong, especially if you're an OG Newcastle drinker from prior to 2008. You could tell me more than what I'm about to say here, but they kept it, I think, pretty similar. Then they moved as part of the brewing production to from the UK to the Netherlands. I think it was in 2017. Now here in the US, they did something in 2019 that I thought a lot of people probably saw coming. They started brewing this one for the American consumers at the Lagunitas Brewing Company. They are both in Petaluma, California and Chicago, Illinois, or at least they were. And I'm pretty sure the vast majority of the production was actually at the Chicago location. So from 2019 until 2024, they were brewing this beer in Chicago at Lagunitas, and they also tweaked the recipe. They made it a little bit more American friendly, aka a little bit more hop forward. I think they put it in the stubby Lagunitas bottles as well. And a lot of people told me that they enjoyed that version of Newcastle, although it wasn't the same as the original. I never tried it. I should have tried it. I should have reviewed it on the channel, never did. So last year, and I believe it was like middle to late last year, Heineken announced that they were reverting, at least for the American consumers and the American audience, they were reverting the beer back to its original recipe and taking the brewing the beer once again in the UK. So the thing about that means that this beer technically is the OG recipe. It also says, and you can see on the label, like right in the middle up here, imported from England. And on the back here, it says this is brewed and bottled by Heineken UK at Tadcaster Brewery, High Street, Tadcaster, United Kingdom. And it's imported by Newcastle Importers in White Plains, New York. It says Newcastle Brown Ale was founded in 1927 in Newcastle upon Tyne, England. Some call Newcastle Brown Ale the dog. I can't, it's so fucking small. The dog, Brune, or Nuki Brown, but we just call it this one, the one and only, and they have it trademarked. That's pretty funny. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out because if you haven't bought Newcastle in a while, you might not know here in the US that they've reverted to the OG recipe and they're brewing this one in the UK and then shipping it here, importing it here. So I don't know. I'm not going to be able to compare it to what I remember this beer being because I haven't had in such a long time. And for those of you who have drank this one over the past 20, 30 years, can you tell the difference? Did you buy this, the new OG recipe, and is it as good as you remember it being? That's all I want to know. Post in the comment section. Now for my review. This isn't a clear bottle, so the skunky issue could be here, and I'm telling you already it is. I can smell the skunk. I do have a very good friend of mine and viewer of the channel, Dan. I have a friend of the channel, and his name is Dan. He's in the Midwest, and he told me he bought a 6-pack of this back in January of this year, and he drank most of them, but he saved one, drank it in the past week of me doing this review, and he said the beer was a bit skunky, but it was still holding up. And he had the same bottled on date as me, or very similar. It was best by December. So when I cracked that, it was definitely skunky. I hope it kind of dissipates. I'm using this glass because I used to have the official Newcastle Brown Ale glass. However, I don't know what I did with it. I haven't used that glass in like 10 plus years. So I have one that's similar. This is similar in terms of how it looks. It's just not as big. This is like 7, maybe 8 ounces, and the Newcastle one I had was like 16. So we're going to give it a pour here. But yeah, so 8.5 months is not ideal freshness, right, to review, but that's what you got to deal with sometimes. I wish it wasn't in a clear bottle, because guess what? If this wasn't in a clear bottle, then we would be all right. But it is in a clear bottle. We'll see what happens. But anyway, that looks beautiful in the glass. It is very skunky, I'm going to tell you right now. It smells like a fucking terrible Heineken from yesteryear. But that is a beautiful brown color. Try to get out the contraband flashlight here from the back. Yeah, that's a beautiful brown color, as you guys can see. Yeah, it has this brown, like bronze color to me. You could even say amber, but it looks beautiful. A finger of it, a very lightly tanned colored head, super creamy looking. This is a fucking beautiful, this is a gorgeous beer. Right now, for a brown ale, this is just absolute perfection. I remember they used to use caramel color, and then they said something about health issues, and they used dark roasted malt to make the color. I hope that's the case, right? Because that's impressive to just actually use malt and have it look that beautiful. It's not impressive, but it just looks really nice. Anyway, nose. Okay, so I got... The skunkiness is already dissipated. I was kind of scared, but it was, when I cracked open, it smelled like a skunk spray, like outside my window. Like it was either out there. Oh man, that smells really nice. It does have this roasty, toasty, kind of like caramelized sugar kind of nose to it, like a little bit of brown sugar, caramel, toffee. A little bit of a fruitiness here, like a red fruit of some sort. Has a nice, like, grassy, kind of earthy, almost floral hop note. Dude, that smells good. It smells a little bit sweeter. It's making my mouth water. It smells like it's going to be a little bit sweeter. But yeah, roasty, toasty, bready kind of quality. There's definitely caramel and toffee, a little bit of that caramelized sugar. A grassy, floral, slight earthy hop note. Red fruit. I don't know what it is with brown ales. It's a style that I used to really dislike, especially American versions. I could get behind the English versions a little bit more easier. This actually smells pretty good. I haven't had this beer in, like I said, close to 15 years. Anyway, I want to get into it. Cheers, everyone. Man, it smells so inviting. The taste is solid. I guess if the nose would have carried over, this would be probably too sweet, too rich of a beer to be able to drink a bunch of pints of. But I'll tell you what, the taste is really nice for what it is. It does have this lingering kind of like more toasty, kind of slightly roasted kind of malt character that's, again, caramel and toffee, a little brown sugar. The body on this is really nice. This is like medium body, 4.7%. It's not super like thin or watery. It's also not super, big and viscous, but it's sub 5%. So the body's really nice. The mouthfeel is also superb. Approaching moderate carbonation, but it's smooth, a little bit softer than anticipated. Has a slight kind of creamy essence to it. The body and mouthfeel are really nice for this beer. The taste is where the complexity is a bit lost. Even though the nose wasn't overly complex, this is actually less complex than the nose somehow. This is one of those beers that really doesn't hit me in stages outside of the finish. It's a front to back, roasty, toasty brown bread. It has that caramel, toffee, brown sugar kind of malt character that I expect. A pop of that red fruit, like an apple, maybe like a dried berry of some sort. And then the finish, it has more of an earthy, slightly grassy and floral kind of finish. The hop character is solid in this one. This is like mild to moderately bitter. This has a nice firm dryness. This leans a little bit sweet for me. Maybe like 60-40 sweetness to dryness and bitterness. But I could drink multiple bottles of this. The most impressive thing, I know this sounds stupid, the most impressive thing for me is how skunky this beer was from just cracking it and being like, holy shit, that is insane. That's like as bad as any Heineken I've ever drank in my life. And then in the taste, there's nothing going on. Now, because of that skunkiness, the beer has definitely been oxidized, because that's what basically skunky character indicates in a situation like this. But it doesn't taste like, it doesn't have like that wet cardboard, maybe a little bit. Yeah, like a little slight, like wet cardboard, stale kind of quality. Doesn't have any of that sherry you sometimes get, because that's usually in bigger beers when they're oxidized, they get like that big sherry note. Pour the rest in here. I think this is pretty solid for what it is. I'm not a brown ale fan, as I've mentioned like 4 times now in this review, but I do get down with English ones more than American ones, because I don't like my brown ales to lean too heavily towards the hop side of things. I like mine to be a little bit more in that vein of, a little bit sweeter and richer, but not over the top. And I think this one leans that way. But, man, for what this is, I'm enjoying it. And again, I can't compare it to when it was brewed, 25, 30 years ago. I just can't. I remember the first time I had this one, I didn't like it because I didn't like brown ales, and it was really the start of my craft beer journey. Yes, that sounds pretentious because it is, because it's fucking stupid, but I just said that. But really, when I first started trying different craft beers, this was one of the first maybe 25, 30 beers I had, and I was just like, whatever, I don't really care for it, Now, I can get behind this. Again, I wish I would have had the Lagunitas version to see which one I'd prefer, but for what this is, the age on it, 8.5 months old, even though the Best Buy's in November, the fact that it was skunked in a clear bottle, I'm okay with this. So I'm going to give it one more sip here and see what we got going on. Yeah, I can drink this. Easy-going brown ale, pretty solid. Not like the best brown ale I've ever had, but I would love to drink this fresh on cask or just have a pint of it in an English brewery just to see what the difference would be. But anyway, Newcastle Brown Ale, now from Heineken. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give that a high 3.75, go 3.85. Yeah, I like this. I like this quite a bit. I might have to... Now, here's something I'll ask you guys in a second, but would you want to see me review this with a fresh bottle? And by fresh, let's say 3 or 4 months old, at some time down the line, maybe in the next 6 months. Or if I find a canned version, I don't know if they can this. If it was in a can, and even if it was like 6 months old, I would like to see the difference. Because I did that before with other beers. Little King's Cream Ale, Little King sent me a fresh bottle of their cream ale compared to one that was like 4 months old and was in a green bottle. Night and day from the skunkiness. So maybe in a fresh bottle, this is 4, maybe over 4 for me. But I will say that I am surprised at how much I like this one, especially since the fact that it was skunky. The price point availability, in my neck of the woods, like 11, 12 bucks a 6-pack. Might be a little bit different where you are. Definitely if you're in a different place in this world, it's going to be different. But here in Buffalo, New York, the Western New York area, I see this typically for like $10.99 a 6-pack. Fine by me. I forget what I think I got that bottle for like $2, whatever, right? It's not a big $2.19. It's fine. And availability is Newcastle. You should see this one all over the place. Like this is one of those classic imported beers here in the U.S. that most people can get their hands on. So I highly recommend you checking out this OG recipe. And again, they call it the OG recipe or the original recipe. Who knows if it actually is? Then again, is it really the OG recipe if they omit the caramel color that used to be the OG recipe and now is dark roasted malt? Who knows? But this is definitely more in line with what I'd expect out of Newcastle and an English brown ale nowadays. It doesn't have a lot of hop character. It's not over the top. Very easy to drink. You could session a bunch of this, so I'm really happy about it. 4.7%, you can't tell. Like I said, really good balance overall. I dig it, 3.85. Not an amazing beer to me, but pretty goddamn solid. So if you've had this one before, whether it's this OG recipe, the Lagunitas version, if you're overseas in the UK or the Netherlands or Europe or wherever, and you have had this beer in recent memory, or you've had this one and you want to compare it to the one from 2003, whatever, like let me know what you think about it. I love doing the beer reviews and having a beer tubing channel because I love the back and forth and I want to hear other people's opinions. I don't pretend to know everything. Most of the stuff I read today is just from the internet. You can do a Google search. I probably got some stuff wrong because it's Beer Patrol here. We don't get anything right on this channel, okay? Nothing. Anyway, shutting this one down. That does it for another shelfy beer review for the month of August 2025. And yeah, I'm happy I picked this one up finally and gave it a proper review. To the next one. Cheers. Oh yeah, Dan, you were right. Definitely some skunkiness going on, but it held up pretty well. And that's what you said. And yeah, I think we're on the same page, buddy. Cheers.